Hello, hello. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights. Thank you for joining us. And before we get too far into this, if you would like to subscribe, then you won't miss a single one of our episodes. Also, we're coming up to Independence Day, July 4th here in the US, for those that are following from the US. And I know you're all over the place out there, worldwide too. Thank you. And this Independence Day, don't forget what it's there for. Don't forget it's about America and about the people in America and how we grow together and work to bettering what's here. It's not perfect, but we do our best to make it better. And today for Author in the Headlights, I want to say hello to Barbara Salvatore. Well, we met at Chanticleer Conference this year, and I just invited her in. We're here finally. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning. How are you, Strider?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. And Barbara is not only an author, she's also an artist. And so you can see them right behind her there is one of her pictures. And although I forgot the name of the horse, what's the name of your
Fred.
picture? There you go.
I had two horses, Fred and Barbara, little brother Fred.
So that's Fred back there and beautiful work.
Thank
So
you.
now you are an artist and an author, and you're an award-winning author. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I from high school got full scholarships to art school in New York City. So I had always wanted to draw picture books for adults. I got mad when pictures stopped being in books at a certain age. And I said, when I grow up, I'm going to make books for adults. So Big Horse Woman is the first book, and Maggie is the second. And all of the illustrations are done by myself. And they are picture books for people of all ages. After art school, I raised a family in New York, and one of our main goals was to have a farm with horses. So in 2000, we moved to a 100-acre farm, and shortly after acquired a team of Percheron draft horses. So they're my models for most of my illustrations of the horses in the book. And then I moved to Nebraska in 2011 to take courses in the Omaha and Ponca language at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. The language is endangered, and there's an effort to revitalize it. And that led to me staying in Nebraska and becoming a Ponca language educator for the youth of the Ponca tribe of Nebraska.
Yeah,
And then from there, just moving on to fact and fiction and education and everything sort of braiding together into a life here in Nebraska.
that's really cool and interesting. And Ponca, that's a native Indian tribe there. And I happen to be connected with the Potawatomi way back when. I think that's really cool that you not only a writer, but you also write about particular things and you studied it. You went through and learned the language, the Ponca language. And that is really neat. In fact, that's part of your book cover, even with the name in Ponca there.
Shangetangawa'u, horse, big woman. And it was essential for me to name the plants, people, and places with Ponca names. And that's what initially got me interested in learning the language. And I'm hoping that it inspires people and, encourages them to learn their language, whether it be Ponca or not, but that Native American languages need that input in that.
It's true. Your series, The Big Horse Woman, is not only the name of your first book, it's the name of the series. And you've got Maggie as book 2 in that, correct? And there are to be more?
Yes, Maggie is book 2, and she's a German immigrant, first generation, born in Pennsylvania to German parents. And it's her father who raises the big horses. In book 3, Maggie is forced to go west with a wagon train and unfortunately loses her parents to a cholera epidemic. And she makes her way west. In book 4, she settles in the Niobrara Valley in an old abandoned Earth Lodge village, which is actually where Big Horse Woman grew up as a child. And their paths cross and intersect, and they exchange the knowledge. There's a big thread in my story, and the other intention is that people learn about the healing ways of plants. And in book 4, Together to Gather, the women exchange their knowledge of the plants and learn how to communicate through a language of plants.
Excellent. And you're only
Yes.
partway through the series and actually writing and producing it. That's
Writer,
Mhm.
book 3
Almost here. I
and
like
book
it.
4. So they are written. At this point, I'm inserting illustrations and formatting the artwork. So the book 4 is going to take longer. There are less than 10 native Ponca speakers alive, and they are kind enough to consult with me on the correct use of my language. So that's going to take a little longer because we're working on that.
Wow. That's amazing. I don't have that much. I've got books that haven't been published, but not that are just, you've got this series like in hand. It's ready to go.
Yes, it
I,
started as a dream that came to me in November of 1995, where I was riding a big black horse covered in seed bags, pouches, and parfleches on my horse, filled with seed and corn seed. And we were coming over a cliff to the edge of a river and saw mounds in the background and a woman in a blue dress planting seeds in circles and spirals and snaky patterns. And the dog that was guiding us barked, and I woke up. And I could not stop from that morning forward saying, who was that woman? Who was that woman in the blue dress? And where are they? And the scenes would evolve and open up, and I'd dream more. And you know, it took about 3 months to get the whole story down, and then about 3 years to get the whole books, all the books written, and then another 3 years to break them up into 4, because otherwise it would have been a very fat epic novel.
love it. I love to hear the story behind the story, how it developed, what you came up with it. I have had a dream where I woke up and it was like I couldn't go back to sleep. I had to get up and actually write the first chapter because it was superb. Um, that is still sitting there because I've got other things I'm finishing first, but I've at least
Oh,
got
I
one chapter
encourage
done.
that. Yeah, I encourage that.
Yeah. And you're an award winner. Like I said, I met you at the Chanticleer conference and you won first place in the Laramie Western Fiction there, correct?
Yes, I entered Big Horsewoman and Maggie one year, and Big Horsewoman won first place, and Maggie was finalist. And this year, The Trail won first place in the Laramie Fiction Award. So, and then I just got an email last week that Big Horsewoman got a first place in Native American fiction in the Indie Excellence Awards, and they promote independent publishers and people who self-publish. So that was really encouraging.
Very cool. Very good. I also did a little bit of background check on you, and you were actually run over by a wagon. What happened in that process?
It's a really crappy story, Strider, but I'm training my horses to drive vehicles, and we'd worked our way from a stone boat to a cart. And then I had a manure spreader, which is a heavy vehicle with a lot of iron
It is.
turnings in the
I
back.
know what they are.
Yes, and in driving that, they spooked when we engaged the rotors, the noise.
Mhm.
They pulled the lines out of my hands, and I fell under the wheels. They broke my pelvis, front and back, and dislocated my shoulder and knee. It took me about 6 months to get on my feet again and learn how to walk. And one of my first goals was to get back on my horse. So that was my best physical therapy for their whole lifetime, was feeling like I could walk because I had their legs under me. It's easier to write than to talk. It's easier to ride than to walk.
There
So,
you go. I do know a little bit about horses. I've had horses and
oh, good.
16 hand curly, and I loved them. We no longer have them, but wow, what a part of life.
Curlies
And
are rare.
they are. Well, out here we had a couple of them. Anyway, yes, that's so I know a little bit about the process and how it goes and teaching and training. And I was a big game guide for a while and ran mules and shoot.
Hmm.
And so there's things I do. I know a couple of things.
Yeah. Life experience.
And we do try to write what we know. So they end up coming out in our writing when we do that sort of thing. And that
Yes.
really gives life and reality to the stories. It's not just all made up. Let me see, your artist work. You did that. You went to school, you got a degree in art, and now you're an author. Did you have writing experience beforehand? Or did you just
Uh,
pick up and say, I want to write this, I'm going to do something?
some of the minors that I took were in creative writing at the New School in New York and NYU in New York City. I think that for a writer, you just really have to trust that you are the only person with your story and you are the only one who can tell it. And so I had that voice in my head all the time. I don't tell the story, who will? So, Big Horse Woman being a Ponca woman, I'm not Ponca. I wasn't even certain who she was until, I did a very large amount of research, and it had to be by a river. There had to be limestone cliffs. There had to be cedar. There had to be mounds, which I had never even heard of earth lodges, but the Ponca lived in earth lodges as well as teepees. So I zeroed in on that location. And the first trip to Nebraska, when I visited the Niobrara River, I broke into tears because it was all the way I had pictured it. So, even if it's something that you, like you say, you write what you know, sometimes things will come to you that you don't know, but research can go down that rabbit hole and, really enhance the reality of what you're envisioning and, make things historically accurate and correct as well.
That is true. And it's important that we do get it correct. So we
Mm-hmm.
have, humans have great imagination. We do that, but it's also good. I think it's better. That makes a more connected story to have those connections in reality and in it also. So
And
that's
it's led to a lot of wonderful opportunities like, podcasts like your own. But I also once a month with the local Lincoln radio station do a show called How's It Growing? And we've called our snippets plant stories, life medicines, and they allow me to interject storytelling and read passages from the books that have to do with plants. And that's available on my website, bighorsewoman.com, because it's all, it's not just to sell books. I really want to educate people about the environment and the plants that are all around us and that are at our fingertips and can be used for healing the way our ancestors did for millennium.
mm-hmm. And you are a literary journalist. You've been printed in other things than just books, correct?
Yes, Plain Song Review here in Nebraska, as well as several anthologies and literary magazines. At United Plant Savers newsletter and website has included some of my stories. So yeah.
All right. And so you've got Big Horse Woman and Maggie. And what's number three named?
The Trail to Niobrara.
The Trail to Niobrara. And then book four, which like you've got at least halfway written, I saw.
Yes, that is called Together to Gather, where
All
the two
right.
in their stories intersect.
And that's the Big Horse Woman series. And it was named the Big Horse Woman because she had a big horse, and that was that was the way you
Yeah,
name people.
she was born Water Willow, being born near the river under a willow lodge. That became her birth name, but at a certain age, she found a colt drowning in the Missouri River and got after it and pulled it out of the water. And her people gave her woman name, Big Horse Woman.
All right. So American Western fiction, yes, but a story which is about the American past. So hence book two.
Other.
That's how the stories interconnect. That's how they
Yeah.
work in life. That's excellent.
Yeah.
I want to thank you very much for taking part of your day here. And it took us a little while to get connected. Things happened.
Mm-hmm.
And also, your books will be available on durhamandpublishing.com on their bookstore page there. And so that is cool. So anybody out there listening, you can find them there or probably through Amazon as well as other places, as you know, you can find them
Mm-hmm.
there. Ingram Sparks, and that they sell at many independent bookstores. Absolutely. Barbara, thank you for spending your time with us. And I hope we bump into each other again next year at the Chanticleer Conference or
Oh,
one
it
of
was
the
a
others.
pleasure meeting you there. That's such a wonderful venue, and I've met so many great writers. It's a very strong network. So thanks for
It
reaching
is.
out, Strider.
You bet. Thank you much. And to the rest of you, thank you for joining us here at Author in the Headlights, sponsored by DurhamPublishing.com. And check out their webpage, DurhamPublishing.com, of course. And until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you, Strider. Bye-bye.
Bye.